Hello everybody, welcome back to my workshop, welcome back to my garage. In today's video, what we're going to be covering is I've got a lot of work done over the last few days. I've got the initial bevels cut into the body, across the top. I've got the tummy carve put in. Got the bridge locations drilled. For the neck, we've got quite a bit done on it as well. We've got all the frets installed. We've got them leveled, crowned, and polished. I've also taken and put some conditioner on the fretboard just to freshen it up a little bit because we have had a lot of work done on it, a lot of tape going on and off of it, so I wanted to freshen it up a little bit. So the neck's looking really good now as well. So let's go ahead and get rolling with this video and show you what I got done. What I'm going to start working on now is I want to put some contours on the body. I don't just want it being this slab. I want it to have a little bit of dimension to it. So I'm going to do two different carves on it. One, you can see I've got traced out here, and I'm going to do a relief carve on the top portion of this. The bottom I'm going to leave squared off. It's going to taper in here, start to taper wider, come around, and then taper back in here where the body meets the neck. And then on the back, I'm also going to be doing a tummy contour right through here. So that's going to, you can see the lines drawn here, that's going to significantly smooth out this edge up top here and reduce the thickness up it by about 3/4 of an inch when it's done in certain places. So it's going to have a nice look to it, I think. As I carve this, I'll get a better feel for it as I start to carve it. But to carve it, I'm just going to take some rasps. And what I'm looking for here, the distance may change a little bit up in here because what I'm looking for is just that nice even bevel all the way around. If it only takes off 1/8 of an inch on the top and I've got that nice bevel, that's going to be fine. But I think with that bevel in there and the tummy contour, that's going to add some dimension to the body, and it's going to come out looking really nice because I don't want it looking just like a Les Paul Jr. I want somebody to pick it up and know that it's a custom-made guitar. By doing that, I think that's going to make that happen. So what we're going to get to right now is we're going to get set up and get the Shinto rasp and the Iwasaki files out and start going to town and working on this body. So I have the body tentatively carved for the bevels that I wanted. I think it's looking pretty good like that. Kind of just gives it that little bit of relief, makes it a little bit more modern looking. And I also put in a tummy contour. You can see that thin down the top of the guitar quite a bit. I may take a little bit more out of here. I'm going to wait until I get the neck glued on to see how it feels. Because once I get the neck on, then I'll be contouring this area in here. So I've got my radiusing jig, or my radiusing tool, and basically just you feed the fret wire through. I've already passed one piece through it to make sure I am at my 12-inch radius, which is what I want to be. This one's a nice jig because you can change the bearing over and use it to straighten. For instance, at first when I was first doing my fret wire, I went just a little too tight and I had to go ahead and straighten that piece out. But there we go. We got the two pieces, radius about the same. This is the area right here where it was just a little bit more radius than the other one. So what I'm going to do is I'll use most of this first and then I'll use this last. So now that we've got some fret wire radiused, let's go ahead and we're going to cut this to size for the frets for each slot. The fret wire I'm using is the StewMac Cryo wire. It's supposed to be harder than nickel It's the same composition really as the nickel, just the different treatment process. So the frets are supposed to last longer. I guess this is the next best thing to having stainless steel frets. So I figured I'd try this. I'm also using their medium tallest wire. The fingerboard's been polished up. It's been polished up to 1500. I've went ahead and cleaned it. And we're getting ready to install frets on it now. So what I like to do first is, which was the triangle file, I like to take and just go through the grooves with the triangle file just to get it ready to accept the fret. Beveling the top of it like this just makes the fret easier to line up in. And also later on down the road, when it's due for a refret or anything, it's supposed to prevent the fretboard from chipping when you pull the fret out. I'm not doing a lot, just a little bit. Being careful not to let the file slip out of the slot, because like I said, I have polished my fretboard. All right, so we're going to start fretting. What I did this off camera, but I'll bring it in and show you. I just took a file to that tang end, where that tang was down in there, and just cleaned that up. That way it sits nicer in the slot. Just a prettier fret job. But I've got all the frets prepped. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of glue, wood glue, down in the slots. I like to do like 3 at a time. This isn't so much for gluing as it is for filling the void. And then position the fret. Tap it at the ends. And now I'm just going through and trimming the edges of the frets, even with the edge of the fretboard. Making sure that I keep my fret ends accounted for, so I don't end up with something stuck in the back of the neck or anything like that. Then after doing this, I'll run a file down the side to file them all smooth, and then I'll bevel them. Put like a 30-degree bevel into the fret ends to where they bevel up a little bit. All right, so I've got 2 different files. I've got this flat edge file, and what I'm going to do with that is just run it down the sides of the neck to clean that up. And then I've got this. This will go across the frets, and it's at a bevel, so that way it'll bevel the edges of the frets over. So basically it's just a matter of being careful with this and just take it along the edge of the frets. Cuts the material away pretty quick. There we go, that's that side done. Okay, and now what we'll do is we'll just take this file. It's set in an angle, and we just run it down the neck. Put it into place here, that'll work better. There we go. See if you can see that or not, but that's putting like a 30-degree bevel on the end of those frets. And what I'll do is I'll keep that going until I get it down to the edge of the fretboard, all the way down the length of the neck, and then I'll do the other side. So to round over the edges, super easy. Just take some time when you're doing it. I've got my fret dressing file, my crimson fret dressing file. On one end it's rounded, and on the other end it's straight. And it's a safety edge on these edges where the file's there. And you just take and couple passes as you rotate it in. Actually, I'm going to use the straight edge because it's up against fretboard. And what this is doing is just rounding over the burr. If there was a burr at the edge of the fret from being cut, and making it nice and rounded over to where it doesn't catch your finger. Doesn't take a lot of pressure. Just let the tool do the work. And what I do is I usually like to do just one side at a time, all the way down. Then I'll do the other side back up the neck. But you get the idea. I'll bring you back when this is all done. So I went ahead and did all the rest of the fret ends. They're not perfect at this point. I didn't expect them to be, but it's to the point now where I can do this up and down the neck and not come away with blood pouring off my fingers. So, but yeah, just to give you kind of a look at it right here. The fret ends, it came out nice. All the frets came out nice. It is going to need a level crown and polish, but that's okay. I knew that was going to happen. What I'm going to do is, because I put the wood glue in there to kind of let everything kind of absorb the space, not so much to glue the fret in, but just to absorb the space that was there, any extra space. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow that to dry like 24 hours. I want to make sure it's good and dry. And then what I'll come do is, you can see here where the fret ends are. You'll see that it's got that gap there. That's the reason why I've refretted number 5, is because I was too far off to one side so you could see the tang. So what I'm going to do is, once the wood glue's dry, I'm going to go ahead and put some wood dust in there, hit it with some super glue, and then put some more rosewood dust on top of it. That way when I sand it smooth, you won't see those holes there where the fret slots were cut. I just think it makes for a nicer look. Plus a little bit of the super glue will also wick down in there to help hold the frets in. But again, the frets will stay in without glue. I just like to put the glue in there. I've seen a lot of people do it. Ben Crow does it. He'll put wood glue in there, and he says the same thing. I think it's more just to fill the space and fill that void to where there's solid contact all the way through. But the neck is coming out really super nice. A little bit of touch-up work I got to do on my volute. I can feel a lump. I can feel one spot where it's just not quite right. You can't see it. It looks perfect, but you can feel it. And that's what the thing is about a neck, is you can feel that. Okay, so but yeah, this is going to be ready to glue into the body very soon. Like I said, after this glue dries tomorrow, I'll hit it with some super glue and some wood dust to fill in those gaps, and then it's ready to put in the neck, or put the neck into the body. Really looking forward to it. The fret job on this came out really nice. I'm happy with it. The dots go well with it. The markers, those go really well. So yeah, it's a good looking neck. All right, so what we're going to do now is it's time to start looking and kind of thinking about final assembly type stuff. So what I want to do now is, first I want to make sure that I've got the correct amount of break angle in my neck. So what I've done is I've placed the bridge on the guitar in the approximate location, and laying a flat edge across it, I ended up having to put a 1/32 shim on the bottom of the neck. But I'll show you what I did. All I really had to do is I just took a piece of veneer and glued it right to the bottom. And that's going to be, that ledge right there is going to be right where the body transition is, where the neck goes into the body. And as you can see there, that's going to make a nice joint through there. This area here is all going to get carved anyway for hand access, so I'm going to be taking this corner down and kind of blending it into the neck there. So that little gap right there that you see, that's going to go away once I finish carving. But overall, it's looking it's looking good. I mean, it's very minimal. It raised it 1/32 of an inch. But by doing that, what it's allowed me to do, as you can see, I've got my bridge laid on here with a 1/16 shim on the bottom, which is how far up the insert is going to stick above the top of the body. So that's as low as the bridge is possibly going to go. But now what I can do is I can lay my straight edge across my frets, and with it sitting on the fret, it is just touching the saddle. Just touching with sitting on the fret. And I've done that in the middle because this bridge is radiused. So I also want to do it at the sides, and you can see I can move it across with no issues of it moving the bridge. So what that tells me is, with that shim installed, with this bridge, once I get the bridge installed and once I put strings on this, because the strings are going to be just slightly above the frets, this is going to be the perfect height for the bridge. It's going to be able to go almost all the way down to the bottom. I will have to raise it up a little bit to get the action, I think, but for super low action, it's right where it needs to be. So I have my drill bit in. I've got the depth mark set to where I won't go too deep. Setting up the drill bit now, and let's drill this hole. All right, there's the first hole drilled. What I'm going to do is precaution, I'm going to go ahead and mount the stud and then make sure the bridge goes on to make sure everything lines up like it should. So it's time to start doing the final fret work. I've got all the frets installed. I've got the ends sealed up. Basically what I did is the slots that were sticking out the end, filled them with some super glue and some sawdust and sanded that back so it fills up the gaps. Makes it pretty much invisible, not quite. I mean, you can still see them when you get up close. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and make sure the neck is straight and go ahead and get the fretboard taped off because I don't want to be hitting it with my file or anything like that and getting metal dust as I'm crowning the frets and doing that work. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure the neck's level. And what I've got to do that with is my straight edge, slotted straight edge. So I'm going to use the correct scale for it. And I'm going to put it down on top of the fretboard. And basically what I'm doing is I'm checking right in the middle to see if I've got any relief or anything. And right now there's just a touch relief. I don't know if you can see that in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the truss rod a little bit, get that straight. All right, so I've adjusted the truss rod and the neck is flat. So now that I know the neck is straight, what I'm going to do now is just go ahead and mask off the fretboard and get ready to start doing a level on the frets. What I've done now is I've went ahead and taped off my fretboard, and I'm just going to go down and check with my fret rocker now to take a look and see how the frets are. I've already done a prelim on this, and the frets are actually really good on it. This one's a little high. What I'm going to do just for the sake of this video right now is I'm going to mark the high spots just so we can see what we've got. And I check them at the edge and at the middle. I'm just looking for it to rock a little bit. Don't know if it's picking it up in the video or not, but you can hear it. I'll see if I can get a clicker. You can hear that clicking like that. That just means it's a high fret. Good. So you can see I do have a few high spots. Not a whole lot. And even on the ones that I did, it's not across the whole fret really. It's except for this fret right here, which is fine because that's where my fall off is going to start anyway. So I'm really happy with that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and draw a line across the top of the frets. And then I'll take my leveling beam and go back and forth until all the lines disappeared. That means all the frets are down to the same level. And as I go, I'll kind of keep it even and straight down the side of the neck, but I'll kind of go back and forth with it across the radius of the neck. That way it gets all the frets. Because I don't just want to sit on one side, because if I did, I'd just lower that one side, and that's not what I want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get these marked up, and then we'll look at getting the frets leveled. If you can see that, I've got the black Sharpie right across the top. All right, so with 400 grit sandpaper on my leveling beam, I'm just going to make passes. I'm letting the sanding beam do all the work. And you notice I'm staying parallel with the fretboard, and I'm going across the radius of the neck. All right, see if you can see this or not, but you can see the tops of the frets, just taking that black Sharpie off of them. And it's looking really good. What we're going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and get this blown off, cleaned off, and then we're going to go back over with the fret rocker and check to see that the frets are okay. So what I've got is I'm going to do two different ones just to see how it goes. First, I've got my crimson fret crowning file. It's got safety edges on it along the edge. You can see here, bring this in, you can see I've got a black line drawn across the top of my frets again. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my crowning file and I'm just going to take equal passes along both sides. And as I do this, that black line is going to get thinner and thinner and thinner. And I'm kind of following the radius of the fretboard. That way I follow the radius of the fret. And by making equal passes along the side, I'm also ensuring that I keep the fret centered. All right, bring this in, let this focus, see if we can get it. There we go. See how that's down to a nice pencil thin line on top now. So that fret has been recrowned. Now what I need to do is I'm going to go and do this next one here with my Z file from StewMac to see which does a little bit better or which does quicker. And actually the Z file, it's a little quicker, keeps it a little bit rounder. So I think I'm just going to press forward with the Z file for right now. The Crimson file does a really nice job, but the Z file just does it a little bit quicker. All right, let's go ahead and pull the tape off and see what we got. All right, all in all, those are some good looking frets right there. Those look really super good. The fret ends feel nice. Maybe a little dressing on there, but the fret ends actually look pretty good. Nice and rolled over, nice and smooth. But yeah, that looks really good. That's a good looking neck. Nice set of frets. And just as one last thing, let's just run through and check them again. Good. So there's a set of perfectly crowned, leveled, and polished frets. All right, well, I think that's going to wrap up this video. We've got quite a bit done with the neck and the body. In the next video, we'll actually be going over getting the neck glued into the body and starting on final prep work to start finish. So if you like what I'm doing, please click like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. I'd love to get your feedback. But until next time, take care.